Back in the day, supercar was a title bestowed upon wild beasts, untamed and often finicky machines that demanded respect, fear, and maybe just a little bit of luck. These cars were temperamental, stubborn, and had a knack for turning a leisurely Sunday drive into an epic battle of man versus machine. But then, from the land of precision and reliability, came a revolution. A car didn't just redefine what a supercar could be. It shattered expectations, reimagined limits, and left a trail of stunned enthusiasts in its wake. Imagine a supercar that didn't only make your heart race, but also made your daily commute smooth. A vehicle so exquisitely balanced that it felt like an extension of your very being. Whether you were conquering hairpin turns or simply cruising down Main Street, this wasn't just another car. It was an engineering marvel. It was a symphony of performance and precision, a car that whispered promises of speed and control, and then roared like thunder when you dared to push it to its limits. It was the Honda NSX. In 1990, Honda came for the big names in the supercar market and overtook them. It created a monster that defined the word supercar and redefined the world of supercars. In 1990, Honda created a cheap supercar slayer, and this is the story of its birth. The Honda NSX was an outstanding and unexpected vehicle when it came out. It was more of a dare, a challenge than a car project. It was like humans walking on the moon, and before you say, that actually happened, that's kind of the point. In 1969, when humans landed and walked on the moon, it was the last thing anyone expected. In 1990, when Honda built and released a sports car that beat the supposed supercars, it was also the last thing anyone expected. To fully appreciate and understand how outlandish and unexpected this moment in history was, we begin our story in Japan in the early 1920s. Our first character is named Soichiro Honda, and on this particular day, he was going home from his father's workshop, tired from the day's work. That evening, he saw something that would change the course of his life and that of the automobile world forever. He saw a Ford Model T bouncing down the road. He saw the iconic vehicle and decided there and then that he had to know how it worked. Before that moment, Soichiro Honda had started his journey in the world of engines and mechanics early, as an apprentice in his father's bicycle repair workshop. He was fascinated by mechanical devices and was inquisitive about how they worked, and because bicycles were the most complex mechanical device at the time, he learned how to repair them with his father. But now, he saw something different, something more complex and more fascinating than bicycles. But there was a little problem. His father did not repair vehicles. Hell, nobody had a vehicle within a 100-mile radius of the village he lived in. So, like many men before him, he packed his bags, dropped out of grade school, and moved out to apprentice at a garage that repaired vehicles. Now, before you take this story as an inspiration to drop out of school and chase your dreams, remember, you are not Soichiro Honda, and this is not the 1920s. Stay in school, kids. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get back to the story. With time, he became a renowned mechanic with his own repair shop. He even started building custom cars and motorcycles in his spare time when he was not tinkering away at other people's vehicles. But his dream of building his own car had a slight delay. The Second World War started. You've heard about it, read about it, and even seen movies about it. It started with an invasion, followed by retaliation, rains of bombs and explosions that literally redefined Japan. The Second World War came and impacted Honda's life. Many Japanese have a personal story to tell about the Second World War, and Soichiro Honda was one of them. At the start of the war, he was producing mechanical parts for the war efforts until his workshop got bombed in 1944, and the salvageable parts got destroyed in an earthquake that followed in 1945. Yes, a literal definition of tough luck. Well, Honda picked himself up and sold the rubble of his workshop for about 400,000 yen, with which he founded the Honda Technical Research Institute in the same year, 1945. Fast forward to 1949, the company was liquidated, and its proceeds were used to form a new company, Honda Motor Company. With the new company name, Honda started building very good motorbikes, making it one of the largest manufacturers of motorbikes in the world. By 1955, Japan was finally recovering from the war, and as expected, the economy was just picking up. To this effect, the government put out a directive for a people's car. You were probably not in Japan in the mid-50s, so let's paint you a picture of what a people's car meant at the time. 4 seats, easy production, and very affordable. That's it. No more, no less. You must be thinking, that's pretty easy, right? Well, not really. Especially not for a company that was used to making motorbikes. It took 50 engineers, 7 years, and 2 of its competitors, Suzuki and Subaru, beating it to the market for Honda to build its own version of the people's car. But it finally did, and that was what Honda made, for the most part, for a very long time. A people's car. Something simple, practical, and reliable. Cars that didn't run too fast, but weren't too slow either. The Prelude, Civic, and the CRX. Cars that had the perfect balance of fun and boring, and that was what the name Honda came to mean. Well, until it didn't. You see, while Honda was rolling out simple, practical, and boring cars, its engineers were dominating the Formula 2 racetracks. Honda engines used in other vehicles were winning races and making champions. These engines were the Formula 2 in 1981, 1983, and 1984. So yeah, you can say that these engines were really good. Honda just didn't have the car to house and use these types of engines. Well, that changed in 1983. One day in 1983, some bored Honda engineers were tinkering and playing around with drive types and engine placement at the company's factory in Tochigi, Japan. These guys took a Honda City and placed an engine in its rear. Now, hold up a moment. It's important to mention that up until this moment, the company was known for building front-wheel and front-engined cars, so this new engine placement was a new thing. As we said, they were bored. With the new engine placement in this Honda City, the engineers took the car for a spin in the yard, and surprise, surprise, it moved exceptionally well. They were shocked at how great the handling was, and with this experiment, the idea to build something special started materializing in their heads. Now, halfway across the world in the US, Honda Corporate was preparing the Acura brand for America. The idea was to push the brand that has gained acceptance in Japan and other parts of the world into the US, and this is what the Acura brand was meant to do. To do this, Honda needed a halo car, a flagship model, something to excite and pique the interest of Americans. A departure from the simple and boring car that Honda is known for. So, when the higher-ups heard about the little experiment at the factory, they decided there and then to make that their muse, their inspiration for a car that would blow people, especially Americans, out of their minds. But just how crazy would this car be? Enter Shigeru Uehara. Shigeru was the lead on the project. He told his team of engineers to make a Honda that would beat the Ferrari 328. Even today, to many people, this mandate still sounds like an oxymoron. A Honda that beats a Ferrari? In what alternate universe does that exist? Nonetheless, Shigeru and his team started work in 1985, trying to build a Honda that beats a Ferrari. This team of engineers was no stranger to engines that powered sports cars. They have all the experience in the world regarding that. The main problem was with the body of the car, its weight and power dimensions. The perfect balance between weight and power. This was where the supercars of the time failed, and these engineers knew that if they had any chance at accomplishing their tasks, they needed to excel at it. And so the search for the perfect weight and power balance started. The R&D department of various Honda factories was put to work on this task, and the team in charge of this vehicle shuttled across these various factories in search of the answer. It was on one of these shuttles that one of the engineers got the brilliant idea: aluminum. And his inspiration came from the very thing shuttling them around: the Japanese bullet trains. These bullet trains were the fastest in Japan at the time, and they were made from aluminum. This choice of material contributed to the speed of the train, and these engineers wondered if aluminum could work for the train, there was a chance it could work for the proposed sports car too. Before that moment, no other car company had made an all-aluminum monocoque car before. It was unheard of. So the team got to work, built a model body for the car with aluminum, and it worked. The aluminum shaved off 200 pounds from the weight of the car. With the body of the car settled, the next course of action was to put a befitting engine into the car. And this was where things got interesting. When it came to choosing an engine for the NSX, the engineers made a somewhat unconventional decision. They decided to use a single-cam engine from their popular Accord model. Yes, you heard that right. They took a humble sedan engine and placed it in their groundbreaking sports car. The same Honda that has built engines that won races in Formula 2 placed a lazy sedan engine in a supposed sports car. Hilarious! The NSX was set to make its grand debut at the 1989 Chicago Auto Show. The anticipation was palpable as the crowd eagerly awaited the unveiling of Honda's mysterious creation. And when the curtains were finally drawn back, the onlookers were stunned. The NSX stood before them, a sleek and beautiful machine that exuded power and elegance. However, there was a slight hiccup. As the president of Honda revved up the NSX prototype, he realized that it didn't have the innovative VTEC variable valve timing and lift electronic control system that Honda was renowned for. Determined not to let this setback tarnish their creation, the president insisted that the engineers develop an entirely new VTEC engine for the NSX. And so Honda's engineers went back to the drawing board and crafted a remarkable 3.0-liter V6 engine with cutting-edge VTEC technology. This engine would become one of the greatest power plants ever created, delivering an impressive 270 horsepower. With a manual transmission, the NSX could go from 0 to 62 miles an hour in just 5.6 seconds, a feat that left enthusiasts in awe. Its top speed reached 160 miles an hour, making it a force to be reckoned with. But Honda didn't stop there. They had their sights set firmly on Ferrari, and they were determined to surpass the performance of the legendary 328. To ensure that they achieved their goal, Honda enlisted the help of one of the most revered racing drivers in history, Ayrton Senna. With Senna's guidance, the engineers pushed the NSX prototype to its limits, testing it religiously at the Suzuka circuit for 1 solid month. However, there was a surprising twist. After a month of testing, Senna delivered unexpected feedback. He felt that the NSX was a bit fragile, catching the engineers off guard. But instead of being disheartened, they took his words to heart and went back to work. They made the car 50% stiffer, ensuring it could handle the most demanding driving conditions. Finally, the NSX was ready to take on the world. It had the performance, the handling, and the engineering prowess to compete with the best of the best. Honda had achieved what seemed impossible, a sports car that could rival the exotics, but at a fraction of the price. Yes, you heard that right, a fraction of the price. With a price tag of around $60,000 when it was brand new, the NSX quickly shook the automotive world. It shattered the sales records of its high-priced competitors and left giants like Ferrari and Lamborghini trembling in their boots. How could a newcomer, a first-timer, upstage the established icons at half the cost of a mid-level Ferrari? The secret to the NSX's success lies in its incredible performance, handling, and overall driving experience. It was a masterclass in balance, agility, and precision. Also, the sports car sold for less because of its revolutionary aluminum body. While its numbers may not have been the most mind-blowing by today's standards, the NSX proved that there's more to supercar than just raw power. It was a finely tuned machine, like a Swiss watch, capable of delivering exhilarating thrills on both the track and the street. But the impact of the NSX extended beyond its own achievements. It was a revolutionary car that changed the entire automotive industry. It sparked a shift in mentality for Italian automakers who had long held the reins of supercar supremacy. Suddenly, they realized that performance and reliability could be achieved without astronomical price tags. In fact, the NSX even inspired one of the greatest supercars of all time, the legendary McLaren F1. The engineers at McLaren saw what Honda had accomplished with the NSX and were motivated to create the ultimate supercar, pushing the boundaries of speed and engineering. Although the NSX eventually faded away, its legacy remains indelible. It became the benchmark that inspired automakers like Lamborghini to redefine the look of a supercar with the Diablo and pushed Ferrari to create more agile and quick models like the 360. The story of the Honda NSX is a testament to the power of innovation and the ability to challenge the status quo. It showed the world that a newcomer could disrupt an established order and create a car that not only outperformed its rivals, but also came at a fraction of the cost. The NSX will forever be remembered as a game changer that left an indelible mark on the history of the automotive industry.